Hello, I'm Apostle Dr. Leon Marino, and this is the Word of Power brought to you by Apostolic Fellowship International Ministries Live, headquartered in Owensboro, Kentucky. Here we answer questions that are sent in by viewers or readers or people who've been touched by our ministry about different issues that they're seeing in the world or maybe that are affecting them in their lives and things that they wonder about. And the question I'm answering today is, are Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics, Christian Scientists, Masons, etc. Christians? Now, I grouped this all together because the truth is that we can answer this question once and for all really simply, and it's the same answer for all of them. And the truth is, I have had experience with all of these different groups. One memory in particular that always stands out was meeting a Jehovah's Witness and asking for a publication of theirs. And I had known the woman for some time, and she had been familiar with my ministry and had claimed to be really interested. And, you know, repeatedly I was always out front with everybody, and I told them that I was not interested in conversion. But they would always say, yes, oh yes, I completely understand, you're just doing research. But then they would go on their own little merry way and think whatever they wanted to anyway. And I had asked for this particular publication that it turns out is not distributed to the general public. They are only given, the book is only given within the structure of the denomination to people whom they classify as qualified. And instead of coming to me, and she had had more than one opportunity because I'd called to confirm our appointment, etc., instead of coming to me and telling me that she couldn't give me the book, she tried to get me into the Kingdom Hall and sit there and trap me into beginning to study with them under the guise that if I became a member and I was found to be qualified, I could have the book. And what she did was really rather dishonest, and it really has always stuck out in my mind because right after I had this incident, I found a particular verse in the Bible that really stood out, that I pointed out to her, and that then she tried to switch again and make it out to be that I misunderstood what happened. I had met another one who later on told me that the only reason why she had ever been nice to me was so that I would become a Jehovah's Witness. I've had many other experiences very similar to this. Catholics who tried to push me back into the Catholic Church, Masons who said that they were certain things and that they were just persecuted by the world, Christian Scientists who acted one way and at one moment when everyone was around and then certainly switched when times changed and it was another moment. And so the truth is that we could discuss and pick at doctrinal issues, and you know, obviously all of these groups have a lot of doctrinal issues which makes their beliefs untrue and makes their religions unfounded. But the truth is that we don't always have that kind of time to witness to somebody or to analyze an issue or to keep somebody's attention that long. And we could try to address all of these religions each one at a time, point by point, line upon line on their doctrinal merits. And there are obviously a million reasons it would seem why one could say that these groups are not Christian. But what we find, however, is that the members of these denominations seemingly come back and have another answer to what we may raise or have a verse that they feel proves their point. And so what inevitably happens is they start to say we're not the Christians and they are the Christians, and we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and we never really accomplish anything in that. And it becomes a big game of what I like to call a verse for verse, where one side argues in favor of and one against, and we don't ever really get anywhere. And so the truth is that there is very concrete evidence as to why such groups are not Christian and how we can determine if a group is Christian off the bat, right away, immediately. And the answer can be found here in this passage of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. Therefore, since through God's mercy we have this ministry, we do not lose heart. Rather, we have renounced secret and shameful ways. We do not use deception, nor do we distort the word of God. On the contrary, by setting forth the truth plainly, we commend ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God. And even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing. The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. For we do not preach ourselves, but Jesus Christ as Lord, and ourselves as your servants for Jesus' sake. For God, who said, let light shine out of darkness, made his light shine in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Christ. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. So what do we see here about groups discerning true Christians from not? Those who have the true ministry of Christ as true representatives and teachers of the gospel have renounced secrecy, deception, and the distortion of the Word of God. They make the truth plain and are doing such in a commendable manner to each man's conscience. And so, in other words, they are doing it so that everybody can say they have made the truth plain and that there is no distortion or mangling in the presentation. If the gospel we preach is veiled to people, it is due to their own darkness in alliance with the god of this age, who is Satan, and is not veiled because we fail to disclose the complete truth of God. Those who preach the true gospel aren't preaching themselves or their personal thoughts, their denomination, or so you will convert to their church or their way of thinking, but preach Jesus Christ and for Jesus Christ, that you may hear and be saved, and so they too can hear the gospel again for themselves. They shine the light in the darkness shine as lights in darkness, making known the knowledge of the glory of God through the face of Jesus Christ. The power they have in their lives is not theirs, but God working through them. Groups such as those we mentioned earlier, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, the Masons, Christian Scientists, Catholics, and so on, all openly admit they do not practice a full disclosure when proselytizing converts. They justify this by saying that there are certain things people can't understand until they belong. This is indeed simply a cover. The reality is that if they disclose some of their beliefs and practices, no one would ever convert. So they simply don't tell the whole truth. Their goal is to get you involved and get you in so far that really you can't turn back or don't think you should because you have come so far. The fact that they do not preach honestly, openly, and giving people the opportunity to hear the whole of their message proves that they are not Christian. If any group refuses to practice a full disclosure of a doctrine they classify as the truth, there is no way they can possibly be Christian. Better yet, if they do not meet the criteria outlined above, seeking to spread light versus darkness, seeking to preach Christ rather than organizations or human concepts, or proclaim a power through a denomination rather than through God, they likewise are not Christian. The truth about a doctrine always shows forth in the way one feels compelled to present a message. Watch evangelism techniques people use. It is the first and often most obvious way we can evaluate the validity of a group's faith and whether or not that group has the truth. Thank you for watching me today on the Word of Power. Please feel free to send questions, comments, maybe one of your questions will get read on the air, to our email, letters@powerfortoday.org. Also, be sure to visit me on my website at www.powerfortoday.org for more information about this ministry and many of the materials we offer to help with various religious educations, scriptural educations, and learning more about your relationship with God through Jesus Christ. Be blessed.